What's going down, peeps? We're back. We're back for another episode of the Prize Fight Podcast. As usual, Brent and Spencer are here to share some more insight of what a battle in life looks like. And today's topic, we've been talking about a lot of things. I thought the last one was really good if you tuned in. But this week, we thought that we would talk about. Um, I'm saying it's real talk, basically, because something that I think that is so hard in today's society is that we struggle with this false sense of putting things that are not really us, putting a false persona to the world, um, and we're being fake towards one another. Where I think we have to fight that every single day. And also, I think we've talked about it a lot on this show, but I think this is so important that you've got to get to a place where you're being okay with understanding your flaws. Because if you can't do that, one, I think you're going to be somebody that's never happy, never content in life because it's not what you were intended to be. So I wanted to kind of have a conversation about that. And for I guess the first question I have is this something that you learn early on and you have to learn how to walk out of that as you get older, or is it almost opposite? You kind of are yourself young, and then you take on false personas as you get older.
I think it can go both ways. I think some of us as kids figure out what's accepted, what um, what you get made fun of for, or what makes you fit in, so to speak. And so I feel like at young ages or at a young age, we might pick up on that. And then I feel like as we get older, we might want to break out of that and um, move towards being ourselves a little bit more.
Yeah.
And to add, man, and that was a lot.
Yeah.
We could go. I mean, I was like, man, I was just thinking of 4, 5 different branches we could take off that.
Yeah.
I think it's also your environment.
Yeah.
I think that what's acceptable, or I think we learn what's acceptable in certain environments to where if people feel comfortable enough to be themselves, or do they feel like in certain capacities they can't
Yeah.
be themselves.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like you said, I think it can go both ways. I'm trying to think of growing up. Was there ever a moment that I felt like there was something that was going on that made me not present like me being genuine in whatever it may be? Um, and I can't recall I'm not saying this is like, ooh, look at me, I'm so special. Like I've never thought of a time where that was hard for me not to be myself. Um,
Hmm.
Now I think you're right. I think even in as you get older and the spaces of different types of people that you're around, you almost have to really fight off not just going with the flow of what that culture in that space looks like, or I mean, just say, for instance, like a job, a workplace, you have to fight off because really the reason that you're probably in that position is because of who you are, not playing the part of what is around you, but you were hired because they saw something unique that is brought to the table that could change the dynamic of making what is happening at this job or whatever better. So, but I'm trying to think of even for me, like if I've ever really struggled with being fake, because I'm a bold. We had this conversation last night here. I'm probably going to tell you how I feel, uh, for better or worse. I'm pretty like I deal with justice. Like I want justice to be served. Like not in a bad way, but like there's this thing right here, and there's a right way of this, and there's a wrong thing, and if I see it not being followed that way, I'm like, no, this is how it should be. And so I'm pretty quick to go, hey, even with the people I work with now, I'm like, I'm so glad that y'all are a lot nicer probably than I am, because I will let somebody, I'll be like, hey, this is not right.
I'm almost. I want to say I might be. There's been times in the past month I've gone to somebody and I'm like, I I'm being fake,
Yeah,
and I recognize that because at times I know my audience.
yeah,
Just like here, I know
okay,
this platform. I feel like on here, am I being 310% Spencer? No,
yeah.
because I can't, because I'll offend people and uh, the government will shut us down. I don't know, but um, and my mom might listen to this, and so I don't want to.
She knows you better than anybody.
She does, right, and she does. But I feel like I am constantly scanning and observing and trying to be aware of my audience,
Yeah,
and so is and I'm speaking on a professional level,
yeah,
and so since I know the team and know the audience, I do play a role
yeah,
because at times Spencer, the personal Spencer, is just wants to yell and throw a mouse at somebody and say, what the, but I can't because I'm in a role. Like you've said, I've been hired
yeah.
to be in this position and lead this team, and I can't act like that. Right. And so it's almost, and some might think that's fake. They're not getting the real me. Now, that doesn't change my drive and that doesn't change my ideas. And, um,
So let's steer the drive, so to speak. So, do you think that the thing that you're driving towards is so important that at times the call is to be fake? Because if there's this thing that we're looking for, or this thing that we're driving towards, and is it worth it enough that in certain spaces we feel like the only way that we're going to successfully get to that thing is to create some false persona, or like, I understand what you're saying as far as like in a professional situation,
yeah,
like, oh well, these people expect me to act accordingly, and I
correct.
understand that. However, is it also a place of, is it the thing that we should be driven to, that we feel as if we have to put on the fake persona?
No, I feel like we have to know our role.
Yeah,
I feel like we have to respect other roles, but I don't feel like I will ever sacrifice who I am when it comes to moving forward and growing a team. I will be polite and professional as long as I can, right?
yeah,
Censored, so to speak. I guess
yeah.
that's another way of saying it. Um, until I feel like it's needed to take it up a notch. And if the what the heck Spencer needs to come out in order to move us forward and in order to kind of snap the team back into reality, then I feel like that's when that'll show up. So I don't feel like me playing a part or playing a role is necessarily fake because I'm not sacrificing who I really am, um, so to speak.
Yeah,
I guess does that make sense?
yeah. So like, with how jobs and professions, and I would say other, growing up, you were taught at an early age to, from like playing sports, that having flaws and failing was not acceptable.
Hmm.
So I think that is driven by life. And so, do you think kind of creating a false persona came in the job, like the job realm and all that stuff, simply because we cannot accept failure or flaws in others. I mean, I think that the false aspect of us came from not being okay with other people being okay with failure, and then that leads us not to be okay with failing ourselves.
Yeah, I think it's okay to fail,
Yeah,
and I think it's okay to have flaws. However, I don't think we should use those 2 things to become lazy and just state, "Well, this is who I am."
yeah, yeah. No, no. I
Um,
mean, I agree. I agree with you. I guess the question I'm asking, and I'm asking myself, is that we've created this monster, so to speak, of going into somewhere. And yes, you I mean, I know obviously we're talking right now from just a work profession.
right,
And so you hired onto whatever job it may be simply because, probably not just, hopefully not just from a resume, but their
right.
word of mouth or anything like that, that people said, hey, this person is proficient in what you would be hiring them for. So you
Mhm.
come on, and to to understand somebody's flaws or failures, or places that they lack in a position, uh, usually that dictates, obviously, whether or not you're going to have that job for the long term. But I guess what I'm asking is, are 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 places setting themselves up to develop others in order that overall, over time, they understand the flaws, but they can be successful in developing these people in order for them to create something that's bigger than, the $1 million corporation. Because I think that's the biggest thing. I think people are so quick to, hey, 90 days, and let me just say this: there's going to be times person is incompetent, truly incompetent in going through with whatever is asked of them. But what I'm saying is, I think that we're in a culture right now that failure has been such a focal point that no one can fail. But then we send them off to a different, say you fire them and they go to another job, not ever understanding why they failed, but also not helping them grow in those places so that they can be successful over time. And I think more jobs should be able to do that. And I know, like, you work in a field that really you don't have much grace to fail.
No.
I understand that,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
and there's some jobs like that, and I understand that too. But I feel like this we're living in a space right now where it's harder to accept that in yourself, but also you could keep doing it and not knowing why that is a failure and how you fix
yeah. This one's tough today, man.
that.
This is really hard. I think it's, I think it's on us to help develop and call out, appropriately when somebody is not meeting, the requirements, when they're not producing efficiently. I think that's on us as leadership to help grow and mold them into what, um, we need them to be, but also what we know they have within them. I've worked with, several people, and a couple come to mind to where, um, I don't want to say they were failing, but they were underperforming,
Yeah,
and they didn't quite understand their potential, and I could see it.
yeah,
And I sat one down, and my story that I told them is, do you know who Tiger Woods is? And of course everybody says yes.
yeah.
He or she said yes, and I said, okay. Do you know what sport Tiger Woods plays? Yes. He's the greatest golfer in the world. Okay, great. Do you know what ping pong is? And the individual said yes, and I said, okay. Imagine Tiger Woods winning the Masters, teeing off 400 something yards plus, whatever, winning the Masters, getting the green jacket, whatever. And then he gets on ESPN afterwards and says, "Man, I'm going to go play ping pong."
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're like, "Well, that'd be silly." And I said, "Yeah, it would. And you're Tiger Woods right now, and you can play golf great,
Yeah.
but you're picking up the ping pong
Yeah.
paddle. You're you have it. We know you have it, but you're not bringing what we know you have to the table, and so you're quote unquote failing." And um,
Okay, so let me play off of what you just said
okay,
there.
no, this is good because
No,
today's
no, let
hard,
me
man.
no,
This one's hard.
let me play off of what you just said because you are
Mhm.
what like the analogy you just used was
Yeah,
you have somebody that has this gift
yeah.
in a certain narrow kind of road that they need to go down, and what you were saying is hey, they're going off of the beaten path and picking up something that they weren't gifted with. So was that their choice or was it a hey, you're in this role, but we kind of really need you to do this other thing too. So I guess my question is that a leadership thing or is that they're just kind of not wanting to focus on the thing in front of them? Or are they going on? I mean, I, I've seen it both
Yeah,
ways.
I think it's a
That's
little of
my
both
question.
because
Yeah.
yeah, us as leadership, which is what I did, I was noticing this, and so I pull them
Yeah.
aside and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
we know that you can achieve better.
Yeah.
What's going on? What can I do to help out? It's
See, and
yeah,
I
that's
think I
totally
like I see that sometimes as again like we know what they can excel in a lot of times and what they cannot. But yet we're like, well, we don't have anybody else for that, so let's throw more weight on them with this other thing that we probably in the back of our minds know that they're not going to be successful in. And then we confront them with it like, oh, well, this was why are you not excelling in this? But the truth of the matter is we probably already knew that they weren't going to.
hmm
But as leaders, we're like, well, let's just see what they can do. And then we're
yeah. I see that done a lot.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, where you might be great at um, Excel spreadsheets, and you're great, and your team is awesome, and you perform at a high level every single day,
Yeah.
and that's great. And so I feel like at times we see that they perform really well in their area, and so we automatically think, and this is what I've just learned growing in the professional world, is we automatically think if they can do it here, just throw them over to this next group,
Yeah,
and they can do it there. And then we get mad at them, coach them,
because they
recoach them,
didn't
and
do
then
it.
we end up letting them go because they never did quite perform in their new role when they weren't. They just that's not their specialty.
Yeah,
That's not the gift that they have. But
yeah,
we made the mistake. Leadership made the mistake thinking that if I was good at Excel spreadsheet, well, then I'm also good at mopping the floors,
yeah,
whatever. And it's not like that.
yeah,
And so I think that's on us.
yeah. Well, it's just like I have, like I said, I've said on this podcast, I've worked in churches for 20 something years, and every how I do believe this, every church you walk into probably takes on the personality of the head pastor. So whoever he is, that's usually how the church will be. That's how I
Hmm.
because if you're a relational person, you're going to walk into a place where there's a lot of relational people. If and I think that's the same way in business too. That usually who is running, whoever the head honcho is that's really running it, is usually the business reflects who that person is.
All right.
So it's funny to me when places like that say, let's go try all this other stuff, knowing full well that this is really the personality and that personality is not for everybody.
Hmm.
And be okay again, going back to being okay with being genuine about this is who we are, this is what we do, this is and in a way almost not I'm with you, there's a way of treating people with respect but also being unapologetic about who you are. And what I mean by that is failures are not those things. And I'm with you. Like, I think there is a way that you can just kind of walk through that, and because you don't want to grow and you can be lazy. I agree with that, because a lot of people go, well, that's just, like we've said this on here, that's just who I am, and that's not true. You can work on these things, but also I think there's a place where you got to go, this really and truly, some of these qualities, that is who I am, and I
Hmm.
work on some things, but this is, I don't want to apologize and change my makeup just for the sake of, a lot of times it's for the sake of just doing it. Like, there's not really, people don't want, people don't really need it, but they expect you to change it. Just
Yeah, I've been a part of teams to where it I was having to really truly censor myself and my beliefs and what I felt like um, was what was really holding the team back, and it just wasn't being heard. And so that's when you have to again respect everybody in a respectful way,
yeah,
and you have to change teams. You don't after I think in the professional world after so many times of beating your head and or even going with the flow just to
yeah,
see if it's going to pan out so many times and you're still not happy as a person or as a professional or as a team member on that team, then you know the quote is you can't change your team, but you can change your team.
yeah,
Meaning, obviously, I'm not going to change this makeup right now, right? I'm not going to change the leader in the way he leads. I'm not going to change everybody else that follows suit. So I'll just switch teams and go find another one, right? So I just
yeah,
change my team. And at times that has to happen. Do some people just become fake and just kind of put their head down and go?
yeah,
Yeah. And does it work? Yeah. And do they go to work and 8 to 5, 9 to 5, marching ants? Yeah. And that's great. I personally couldn't do it because I know who I am and I know my personality at some point would
yeah,
um, I would have to change who I am, and that's who wants to get up and be fake.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, you don't have to go into detail, but you're saying in this month you've caught yourself a couple times.
Yeah.
I mean, and I mean, was that just like, whoa, wait a minute, that's not really who I am, or is it more of this fakeness has taken me down a different way that I'm not really okay with? Was it like under the skin and you weren't aware of it, and then it popped up and you're like, oh man, or was it like blatantly like, yeah, this is no way, you know what I mean? Like, you knew that,
Yeah.
but
I think it was more on the level of I was following.
okay,
I was following others, and it just wasn't. It wasn't who I am, but it was working.
yeah,
But it was and it was fine, and we were successful. But driving home or at the red light, I just felt it on me. I'm like, this is. I mean, it's great that we're successful, but I'm
there are
I'm
costs.
sacrificing who I am. Yeah, and I can't stand it. And I think there's a lot of it that's professional. I think there's a lot of personal stuff too, to where um, I always try to remain positive and friendly and actually listen and actually ask appropriate questions and because I care and because I want to um, listen to what that person has to say.
Yeah,
But then at in the same time, I have to make sure that I don't just put it on autopilot
yeah,
because then that does become fake. Now, I'm not saying every time, every Monday morning when we walk into the office, "Hey, how are you doing?" "Good." "Okay, cool." That's autopilot. No, that is. But I want to be more than that because I'm not saying that just autopilot is fake
yeah,
right off the bat, but it can become pretty fake.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I can put sugar on a lot of this.
Oh yeah,
And I I don't want to. I can put some sugar on it and say we aren't being fake, but I feel like at times we are. If we're keeping it 100, I feel like at times we're all fake. And do we mean it in a negative and aggressive way? No, we don't. But um,
But it comes back to what we've been talking about. Like it's from the very beginning. Is that ingrained early on, or is that something that because we think that there's these things that must be attainable for us, or we don't feel accomplished or successful or anything, that along the way you learn that the way to that success is fake persona.
mhm,
That being content and complete and knowing, if I walk along this and can be genuine and be who I was always created to be, there that is instead of
right,
I mean, and that's what I'm trying to figure out for myself too is where was the line of going, you know what, and I think the older I get, the worse I get, and I'm like, enough's enough. I'm not gonna do it. Like, you know,
yeah,
like my time, my space, all these stuffs are valuable, and so like I don't want to go somewhere where I'm spending an hour not being me. So I
right.
don't involve myself.
Or 8 hours or 9 hours in the office of not really,
Word, yeah,
having to censor yourself.
yeah. And so like I'm trying to figure out along the way what what where does that happen? Because again, like I don't feel like in childhood that was something, and I see it more of probably as I got older, that was something that you kind of work through. Hey, like I don't want to be okay with my failures, so I'm gonna kind of put them in a bag in the corner and not
Mhm,
know about that, and so I can. But the truth is, even in the things that I excel in, along comes with the things that I'm not so good at, and so I share all of those things and be okay with both sides of it. Present that to the world and say, "Hey, this is it." Now I'm working through a lot of these things that I'm not good at, but I think I forgot. Like if you were to rate things on a 10-point scale, the things that you're really bad at, you may go up a point. You were just not gonna. You're not gonna get that much better probably at these things.
mhm, right.
So if I even work at that and get a little better, it probably never will get better. It won't. It won't ever get to the point of my things that I excel in. And so, am I okay with that? Is other people okay with that? Am I okay with pushing that out to the world and go, hey, regardless, this is what it is. And there's gonna be people that are gonna be like, no, I'm not okay with that. And I'm like, all right, and not me myself not be offended by that and being okay with
Yeah.
that.
I think there's two parts to that. I think the first part of it is when does that happen? I think that falls into where us as kids or young adults or adults, I think we catch things, so it's caught and not taught,
Yeah,
right? We catch it, and I think we catch what's acceptable, what's not, what rubs Brent the wrong way. So I'm not going to say that at the water cooler on Monday because I
yeah,
know Brent doesn't like it when I say that, or what's going to set off Spencer. And so I think people catch things and learn to navigate through that. Is that being fake? I don't. I don't know. I think that's tough. Um, or is it just, or are they just being smart and aware
yeah.
on how to communicate with everybody in the office? Um, and then the second part is, um, are we are we censoring ourselves or dumbing down ourselves enough to where if we continue to do that, are we being fake ourselves? And um, I don't know. It's this is a tough conversation today. It's
Yeah.
tough. I'm kind of this is why I haven't talked a lot. I'm just like this one's tough.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you even think of like your personal relationships in life, um, whether they're dating, marriage, whatever. And like I was talking about this morning, is that you gotta go through this season of, like when you're in high school, oh baby, I love you. You say those things, and like you really don't even know what that means,
Yeah.
but you start kind of portraying, you start kind of putting together like, hey, I want to be with this person, or I want this person to be like a friendship or whatever. So sometimes you kind of alter. I think when you're young, you alter some things about you so that you can kind of fit into that, whatever that looks like. And over time, like I like my first one of the first things that I said to my wife when we were dating, I said, I want you to know right now, I don't need you at all. I want you, but I don't need you.
Yeah.
And knowing full well that like I wanted to pursue that relationship, but also you got to understand this is who I am with all these things, good, bad, ugly. I don't need you to fulfill anything to make me feel more important about myself. You because I enjoy our relationship, I enjoy being with you, I enjoy, and I am willing to sacrifice parts of me that 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 can work. But by no means am I doing it because you complete anything in me. Because I can do this, you know, I can do all this stuff in my life without you. Um,
Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
again, I didn't say it in an ugly way. I
Yeah. Of course.
real, and I think that's what I was trying to say earlier. I'm a very matter of fact. Like I try to be in reality based. I've thought through what I'm going to say, and even if it's kind of matter of factly and kind of blunt, like there's no fluff to it. I'm just gonna, even though I love you, this is what it is, and
Yeah.
like you can,
I,
you can hate my guts for that, but that's just how it is.
yeah. I think I'm two people. I think I am a role at work that I know is needed, um, and I'm constantly trying to become better and push others. And um, I don't, I don't get too personal,
Yeah,
I guess. So I am a role. I am a, I don't know what they call those digital things. I'm not a robot, but I think I feel like I play a part
yeah.
or play a character.
So okay, oh go ahead. You got two
And
parts.
then, kind of to add to what you were saying with your wife, is, and I feel like my inner circle, my three people,
Yeah,
four people, whatever, and my dog, that I feel like they get the uncensored um, Spencer, to where um, if the okra is cooked too long and I think it tastes burned, then I'm probably going to let you know.
yeah.
To where if I was at a luncheon for work and the okra was burned, I wouldn't say
You're
a
like
thing.
magnificent.
I would say, this is
Yeah,
great. This is the
give
best
me some
okra I've
more.
ever had. This is, and so I know my audience.
Yeah,
And when I kind of have to turn it on, right, at work.
yeah,
And then, on the way home from work, I can turn it off and I can be
yeah.
me. I can be uncensored. Um, some people might think, well, that's fake. He's playing a part. Okay, I'll take it. I'm playing a part.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. So like, don't. Hopefully, nobody from your work listens to this, but uh, um, the question I have though, like in the long term of you feeling, because we've had this conversation, feeling successful, feeling like I did something that mattered and stuff.
Mhm.
Having feel like that's the role that you play long term, will you feel that you have been successful, even though you're saying, "Oh, I just played. I wasn't I'm not saying you weren't genuine, but like saying like, well, I wasn't really me through this whole process." So in the long run, are you gonna feel, "Oh, I really made a difference. I was successful because you weren't you." That's the fight here. That is the battle. You know. which is a hard question to answer. You know, I'm throwing you some strikes today. I know, but and this is me processing out loud.
Yeah,
Like
I don't think I will ever be fulfilled.
so, but why? This is the thing.
Um,
This is the thing you're pursuing. This is the thing that you know what I mean. Like this is the thing
yeah,
you chose to.
um, I don't know. I guess it's because I have that internal drive.
Yeah,
I don't know. As a team, we've done a few things, and we've been quote unquote successful. Um, and I did it in a very censored way, but then I've also been successful in other positions to where it was okay and it was allowed for me to be a little more um, uncensored.
yeah.
Um,
So, so like the word that keeps coming to me that I've had to really work with is the word content. Because I'm a lot like you, that I can look at anything and say, well, this could be better. We could do this a little
oh
different,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's a
absolutely,
constant. And like I've had to like probably in the last year slow myself down and go, if this is as good as it is, am I content? Can I find it in myself to be content with it, whatever it
yeah.
is, and really work through that? And so I guess like really at the boiling point of the question is, are you more content role? Are you more content with being? I mean, like you just said, I've been in two places, like work related, that I could be more myself, or I could be or this role. So I'm saying, like for you personally, do you feel more content? Have you felt content being more yourself, or the other way around? Because
Great question,
that's the
and I know my audience, so I'll answer it appropriate. I
hey,
felt more content and I felt more successful when we achieved things and I got to be uncensored.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I think it means more. I think I get to enjoy it more, or I got to enjoy it more.
yeah,
Um, I'll enjoy some wins when we get there.
yeah,
Um, and I'll try to, I'm still me.
yeah,
I'm just a dummied down, watered down, censored me.
yeah,
Um, and I probably won't. I don't. I guess the wins that we achieve, I'll take it. But I'm just gonna keep on going. I don't think I'll ever be content. But I think that might be a little bit more of my personality.
yeah.
It's
And
just never satisfied.
yeah, and I think most people need that push to be the people that are obviously we know in the world the people that are most successful are people that have that drive that never ends.
Hmm. Hmm.
But as you grow old, like this is what I'm learning for myself is the older I get, I'm still driven, I'm still passionate, I'm still all these things, but am I too hard on the situation to go, you know what, this might be as good as it gets, and am I okay with that? For like I look at so many people uh that are our age that they all their life looked at their success as to living in a big city and living in a mansion or having a huge bank account or whatever, and they live so like or they live like wretched lives because they're so upset that they're not there. And
Hmm.
for me, like I mean, I'll be blunt on, I be where I make a six figure income, or sorry, yeah, six figure. And that, you know what, I am okay with that. Like if this is how life will be the rest of my life and where I live and the house that I feel like I have more than I would ever need. Um, Now for some people they can't accept that and they can't be content. So it's always this drive of I've got to get more money, I've got to, and kudos to you if you feel that way. But if you never get there, are you okay with that? Are you okay with those things?
I think there is what I look at is, and especially now that we're older, I looked at happiness to where to kind of play off some of what you were saying to where um, I have moved off to Dallas and worked for a big company and got to fly around and be cool or whatever, and I was miserable.
Yeah,
I was, and it it looked really cool on paper. If you told people what you did and where you live and blah blah blah, and where you just flew to and where you just flew from, blah blah blah, um, people are they're wowed over it.
yeah,
But I was miserable. I wasn't happy, and so at what cost, right? Did I have to sacrifice my happiness and who I was just for a big paycheck and in a big city and um, working for a big company? Um, that's where I became aware of this all sounds great and looks awesome, but am I happy as a person?
yeah,
Yeah. Um, and it was no, you know, which is why I'm back in Lubbock, Texas, right? And it all worked out,
yeah,
and it always does.
yeah,
Even when you're going through a valley or whatever, it all works. It all works out.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I mean, we talked about like being, like being raised a certain way had maybe has a little bit to do with it, but also, even for me, I Lubbock was probably the biggest place that I would say that I've lived at that, which Lubbock's not. I mean, it's big. I mean, considerably, but not like gigantic. It's not a metropolis of any words, but
yeah,
even at that, I me nor my wife, who grew up there her whole life, didn't feel there. Like we wanted even something smaller that we felt true. Like,
yeah,
I mean, I know that's not for everybody, but like even that, like it has made us more content because that's what drove us. That's what the passion is to be among people, and for better or worse, they know you probably better than you sometimes want to, probably.
yeah,
But again, like I'm just I don't know. A lot of times I don't feel I'm with you. I'm probably reserve some things, but I don't think I've ever falsely put something out there. I might reserve how much I let out or share, but I've been like, well, this is totally uh,
yeah.
you
I
guys.
always bring and just for the record, I always bring energy and positivity. What I say when I have to censor myself, it's not that true personality that I have of being positive and hyper, and I'm definitely going to get on your nerves. And I've probably said that in a few interviews. I'm going to bring it. It's where I have to censor myself. Is probably my language and not popping off on somebody when
Yeah,
maybe they don't meet expectations. Yeah. So I feel like if we can go to work every day or go through your day and um, not sacrifice who we are, then we're not being fake.
yeah,
We're just being professional. We're being kind, and we are not wanting to offend others. And um, yeah, I don't think that's fake. I think it's just knowing your audience. Or I might just be putting sugar on this. I don't know.
no.
You know?
So like, kind of. I mean, we're getting close to wrapping up, but I wanted to have this conversation. Like, this is the question I have because I know this is me. So for a long time, the reason the reason to which I would be upset with somebody or feel like they weren't justly doing what they want to, or I would pass judgment on whoever, is because deep down I was not secure enough to handle my own failure. I couldn't. I didn't want anybody to see that, and so it was a lot easier to go to point out somebody else's. Um, and I hate that that's how it was, but I mean, I think that a lot of people, we all do that in some degree. So, like, that was my question. Do you feel like do you feel like that's a struggle? Like, not that you're hiding failure, but easier to get onto somebody because you're like, I get so ramped up. Is it because you're like, well, crap, I could be better? I mean, like, I have this in me, but I want to. I'm gonna get onto you for the thing that you're. You know what I mean? And I'm not picking on you. I'm just curious because I know
I
I've done that. I do that.
I think because I have failed so much in life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And go back and listen to the other ones and to
Yeah.
the other podcasts to see how I have failed,
Yeah.
and I know that.
Yeah.
Um, I think, and I know what I've been brought back from and what I've been brought out of. I think that's what makes me so confident and so 0 to 100 is because the things that we go through now, or the things that I go through now, or the things that I experience now, it's nothing. It's really nothing in the big scheme of things. There's nothing at work that's going to be harder than coming out of addiction,
Yeah.
stay in recovery.
Yeah.
Um, you know, just and so I feel like now more than ever, um, that's why I am so confident and positive, and it just I don't know. I don't.
Yeah.
And so when people get stressed out because the copier doesn't stable their
Yeah.
whatever, or that might be me still, or whenever something happens, or when something that they expected doesn't go a certain way and their day's just shot, I'm like, get the over it.
Yeah.
Like it's 10:15. We have the rest of the day to go. Like we
Yeah.
gotta go.
Yeah.
And they get bogged down over what I feel like are these meaningless tasks and um, areas, and they just want to pout. And I'm like, no, that's nothing. Like, let's go. And so I feel like that's what brings it out in me is my past experiences um, and the confidence level now and um, almost not caring. I care enough to be professional
Yeah.
as much as I can, and but then I don't care enough to where I'm gonna be myself and let you know when I feel like you haven't met
Yeah.
an expectation.
Yeah. Well, and I think that has to be good leadership. I mean, you can't just let ineptness run its course constantly. You got to lead in such a way that inspires and helps people get from point A to B, especially as a whole if you're working with a team or whatever.
Hmm.
But for me, like I talking about like just failure in general, I don't know, it was just the last 2 weeks dealing with people, it just made me so much aware of how much we respond to one another in the world out of these insecurities. And really, most of the time, the insecurities are birthed from failure. And so I'm going to portray, again, going back to this false persona, I'm going to portray to you something that's really not in me, but I'm going to show you something so that you think that I'm worthy of whatever it is. I'm worthy of you spending your time on me. I'm worthy of you, like, giving me a second glance. I'm worthy, and that's the thing. I don't know why that's the game that we feel as if we have to play in order to have feel of worth to people that in the long run probably don't care. They don't
No,
care if you're
we don't. People don't care.
yeah,
They might You might be the talk of the town or the talk of the office or the talk of some little whatever
yeah,
for 15 minutes, a few group text. Like,
Uh,
it doesn't matter. It just doesn't. And I feel like we're caught up in it to where we have to be that highlight reel. We have to be what you see on Instagram. We have to be what we see Bezos being or Elon Musk. We have to be these people. And you don't, because I truly feel like, and this is just my opinion, nobody cares.
yeah,
Nobody does.
yeah,
Do we love you? Yes. Do we want you to succeed?
yeah,
Yes. But nobody cares if my dog dies.
yeah,
And that's something that rocked my world.
yeah,
But nobody cares.
yeah,
They're going to be nice to me. They're not. Are they being fake? Maybe. They may not care.
yeah,
But are they being polite? Yeah.
yeah,
And they might say, "Hey, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry. I know, y'all were homies and whatever."
yeah,
But they're going to go, get on Instagram and forget about me and
yeah,
my dog in 2.8 seconds. Nobody cares. And so I feel like once we understand that nobody really cares and other people's opinions about us don't matter,
yeah,
um, then we can really become be ourselves, become who we're supposed to be,
yeah,
and just rock and roll with it.
yeah,
We have to be um, aware of that, and if we're not, and if we just try to fit in and blend in, then I feel like that's where we might start to blur that line of being who we really are and becoming fake at the same time if we're not really careful.
yeah,
And so I feel like um, that I think maybe in the very beginning the question was, when did we realize that? I think we probably catch it when we become a little older,
yeah,
right? To where it's okay if you don't have this. You're okay.
yeah,
You're okay, and I don't have to have this job in this city and do this or this title.
yeah,
I don't have to have this title to be valuable.
yeah,
And I learned that as I got older, to where I know who I am, and I also know who I'm not, which is very important.
yeah,
And um, I might mesh well with this team, and I might not mesh well with this team. That doesn't make me wrong. That doesn't make that team wrong. It just means that it wasn't a
yeah,
good fit.
yeah,
And so I I feel like it's important that we um, care enough about ourselves that we recognize that we can always improve who we are
yeah,
and um, become better, but we don't have to sacrifice who we are or who God made us to be in order to fit in, because that is fake.
and we'll touch on it in the next episode. But I think one of the biggest things that we've got to find in our life is a valid community that embraces all of those things and is
Yeah,
okay with the fractured life that is us. Like, I mean,
yeah, yeah,
no broken people that are working towards this place of being
yeah.
flawed and stuff, but to find that space with those that are accepting of that and want to walk alongside you to help you work through whatever that is keeping you from the fullest and being content and being
Mhm.
complete in that. So, but I mean,
Yeah.
again, I think we could probably go another hour on this. It's such a hard thing because I think being fake and accepting flaws have a lot to do with each other and being
Hmm.
the weaknesses and all that stuff. But like, I think we're just living in a time where it's not accepted as much to be seen as you have some imperfections or weaknesses, and instead of going, hey, we're gonna roll with it and we're gonna kind of help each other along the way to either embrace that and know that you're really successful in these other things, or let's really work together to make this better in one another. Because I think once we see certain flaws, we're ready to like run out the door. Especially I think in relationships, like, oh, you
Yeah.
have one messy thing, okay, well, I'm out of here. Instead
Yeah.
of, hey, like, okay, let's work through this and say, okay, what's this thing? What is it?
Yeah. Hmm.
Because if I accept you, I'm also accepting this thing that is kind of ugly or messy or whatever. And okay, let's work. But anyway, I mean, we'll get to community in the next one. But I thought this was a good
That
story.
was a tough
Might,
one.
might
Yeah,
have
they're
to come
getting
back.
hard now.
Might have to come back to this some other
That's a
time.
tough one.
So, again, guys, like we'll kind of wrap this one up. But thank you for tuning in. If you've been listening, this will be number 8. No, 7.
Eight?
We've done 6. I think it's 7. So
Man. Okay.
I think that's right.
Goodness gracious.
So anyway, we're still rolling and stuff, and we appreciate if you've been listening to us. Again, you can listen to us on all audio platforms, and then watch this video on YouTube if you are
No.
ready. We appreciate it. So we appreciate you guys, and hope you will tune into the next one, and we'll be talking probably about some community stuff. So thank you guys, prize fighters. We'll catch you on the next show. We'll talk to you later.